Alright, so I decided to make a video just on this ink project and the requirements that I'm looking for in this. So just remember that this whole thing is about atmospheric perspective. And your goal is to create an image that is creating space or creating depth in your artwork. And anyways, you can do landscapes, you can do animals, there goes the bell. You can basically do anything you really want to do with this, but again, you just need to create that space. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to use my credit card trick. I'm just going to create a landscape and just talk about various kinds of techniques that you can do with this. And I'm almost out of dark ink. I might need to pause this video. Okay, I'm going to start with the tree, and I think I showed this technique already where you take a credit card. It's getting a little bit too darker than I wanted to. There we go. I've just dipped it in some ink. There we go, so I got a trunk of a tree. Alright. And let's see, maybe I'm going to make another bigger tree right here in the foreground as well. So I'm using a very dark ink, and I'm using a dark ink because this is in the foreground, and remember that objects closer are darker than objects farther away. Some of the other requirements that you guys need to have is you need to have at least 3 different kinds of textures happening. So what I'm doing with the credit card right now counts as a texture. I'm creating this kind of bark texture. Okay, I'm going to put a background using a very, very light ink. I'm going to just take this brush. And with ink, remember to make it lighter, all you have to do is just add some water. I got my little tub of very light ink here. Okay, and I'm going to create a very wet surface here. So I'm going to maybe put in some mountains in the background. Let's see, a little darker than I intended here. I'm going to add more water to my brush. There we go. There we go. And the paper I'm using is just like a regular paper, but it's fairly thick drawing paper, nothing too thin. Okay, and while that's wet, I'm going to get my credit card, wherever I set it down. You know what? I didn't want it that dark. I'm trying to make it look like there's some trees growing in the bottom here. Maybe I'll zoom up a bit. Did it again. Sometimes you kind of have to help it along. So I'm trying to get this blurred view of like some bushes here. There we go. Maybe I'll kind of help this edge along right here. So that will count as a texture to this kind of bleeding look that I have. And again, the requirement is at least 3 textures happening in here. Alright, what else can I do with this? So dark foreground, lighter background. Something to think about if you guys choose to do grass or trees, etc. Try not to get it stuck in your head the symbolism of what a tree does. And what I mean by that is, let's see, in my drawing class we just did spheres, so we're just gonna, what I mean by that is when people draw a tree, what they first of all think about is, here's a branch and it goes off in a 45-degree angle. Let me move this up just a tad. Okay, there's a branch in a 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle, etc. That we symbolize in our head, that's what it should look like. But in reality, I can't think of a tree that grows like that. It varies, you know, what the weather's done to it, etc. Let's see, so if I'm going to draw some branches on this tree here, it's never perfect. Like sometimes you find a branch that points down, that kind of behaves not as it's supposed to, or you have these straight branches that are going across, and they vary in their thickness and thinness as you go. And that variance is important as you're drawing. You don't want your lines to be all identical and the same. You want them to thicken thin. Let's see, I'm probably going to have to wait for this background to dry a bit before I continue. Okay, 3 textures. Dark foreground, light background, and overlapping are the things that I'm looking for in this drawing that you're working on. I asked you guys to do 3 practices. So this is an excellent student example that I have over here. They've done 3 practices of the exact same thing. And the reason why I want you guys to do those practices is it gives you room to make mistakes, to learn from what you did. So all of these are slightly different. You know, she changed the position of the canned bear in some of these, and eventually got to this final piece. So overall, you're turning in 4 pieces, 3 practices, 1 final. And just remember, you need 3 textures. So like here's a texture, there's a texture, the hair on the back of the giraffe can be texture. You need to have a dark foreground and a light background, like how we have a nice dark foreground here, medium values here, and a light background right over here. And you need to have overlapping. So that overlapping means that like this tree's in front of everything here. So anyways, and that's all that is required from this assignment. So that is all. If you can't have access to ink supplies for whatever reason, I have an alternative assignment for you guys to do that is on Canvas. And okay, I'll just leave this here.